Hi, and welcome to the OT is In, the podcast where we merge the worlds of education and occupational therapy to empower families like yours. I'm Sarah Collins, your host, an occupational therapist and a homeschooling parent. I've experienced occupational therapy by supporting families for over 15 years, but also through seeking out support of my own children, so I'm right here in the trenches with you. Though there is not one way to educate your child, there is a lot to consider when individualizing an education. And the goal of this podcast is to explain some of the why behind what an occupational therapist is thinking so you can apply it to your own family. Especially with my three favorite topics: executive functioning, handwriting, and sensory processing. Each episode will be packed with practical tips, expert interviews, and real-life stories aimed at helping you to create a supportive learning environment for your child. So, grab your headphones and get ready to dive in of the collision of education and occupational therapy. I'm Sarah Collins from Homeschool OT, and I'm thrilled to have you with me on this journey of discovery. In this episode of the OT is In podcast, I invited Mandy Doman from Advanced Brain Technologies. So many families ask me about programs that affect brain development or cognitive development. Many times I've recommended the listening program. So Mandy is here to provide insights into the program's origins, the impact, and practical application. She talks about the science behind neuroplasticity and also gives heartwarming success stories. This episode sheds light on the program's potential to enhance executive functioning, auditory processing, and overall well-being. So if you're curious about using music as a tool for holistic development in your homeschool, this episode is just for you. Before we continue, I want to take a second to invite you to the Handwriting Focus Group. In episodes 5 through 8 of the OT is In podcast, we're discussing handwriting, but you'll notice it is only one aspect of handwriting: vision. The month-long focus group is a deep dive into the complex task of handwriting. Led by me, Sarah Collins, a seasoned homeschool mom and occupational therapist who understands your challenges firsthand. Join us as we tackle the tough questions. What are all the skills needed to write a simple sentence? How and why do the required skills get more complex as expectations grow? What is dysgraphia and how do you address it? When is it time to embrace technology over traditional handwriting methods? And most importantly, do we really need to write in the digital age? So you'll see there are so many more questions that we can target through that group than here on this one podcast. Restore hope and confidence in your homeschooling journey. Sign up now and let's revolutionize your approach to handwriting together. You can find the group in the shop at homeschoolot.com or specifically homeschoolot.com/shop/handwriting-focus-group. Now back to the show. Well, hello and welcome back to the OT is In podcast. I have with me today, it's so fun, from Advanced Brain Technologies. This is a program that we've used within our homeschool, especially for executive functioning. So I wanted to make sure that we can understand the why. And do you know what? I actually just learned that Mandy was a homeschool mom too. So I'm going to just go ahead and throw it to you. Could you first just tell us a little bit about you and about, your homeschool experience, and then we'll kind of jump into what exactly is the listening program?
Yes, I would love to. Well, for our family, the listening program is truly just such a passion. So my husband, Alex Doman, is the founder of Advanced Brain Technologies. He's a third generation in a family of neurodevelopmentalists. And his take in the family business was really looking at how can we create a really holistic way of improving our performance. And so music was that answer for him. So the listening program came out in 1999. I joined the company in 2000. I've been using the listening program now for the past 23 years, and all three of our boys use the listening program. So we do have two that are in their 20s now. So we homeschooled our middle child when he was in elementary school and part of junior high. And our youngest son is 14 now, and he's doing the listening program before school every day. So it truly is
So
a
cool.
passion of ours to have this music program available for our own family and for other families as well.
That's so great. So can you explain a little bit about why music? Like, why did he settle on that? How did that affect performance?
Yeah. So the interesting thing about music is that it's truly structured, organized sound. And the brain and the body respond so well to having that influence. And, really it started with the work of Dr. Alfred Tomatis. He was a French ear, nose, and throat physician from France. And he discovered the role of sound frequencies and its influence on our function. And so when we think specifically about executive functioning, we need to be in a really calm and relaxed state to be able to process information correctly, to be able to have the attention and the memory that it takes to be good, successful learners and to be connected to other people. And so the listening program really was an answer to having a program that could be used in the home, that was affordable, something that the family would love doing. And so that was really the initiator for making the listening program available.
Just speaking logistically, right? So what we did was about 15 minutes twice a day and at different points in time that, fit in with my daughter. And you're saying before school with your son. So can you explain a little bit more about like, what does that look like? Those 15 minutes, what does that look like for you or for him or
Yeah,
for
so
anyone?
right, he's a teenager, so it's a little
Yeah.
bit, I'm finding that he's not quite as like, he won't do everything that I want him to do when I want him to do it, but we have
Oh,
come up.
imagine that.
Yeah. So what I do with him now is that's how I wake him up in the morning, because I was thinking like we just can't seem to fit it in after school.
Yeah.
It's hard to do it when he's like getting ready and to be able to get out the door on time. So now what I do is I go down, turn the lights on, not like blaring in his bedroom lights, and then I actually put the music on him to wake him up. And when I started doing that, what I noticed was that he was much happier when he would actually get out of bed. He goes through and he does all of his chores. He just seems more together
Yeah.
and happier. So for him, that's what we did. But for our middle son, who was actually, we were homeschooling him, we did it twice a day for 15 minutes. And I would set up an area where he had his favorite activities. So maybe it was coloring or drawing. He's a very artistic kid. And so he did his program, during the day before we would launch into math or whatever the homeschool activity was that we were doing. For him, I noticed that it really helped to calm him down. He was diagnosed with anxiety and ODD, so oppositional defiant disorder, and he had a lot of sensory processing issues as well. So for him, it just regulated his nervous system and kind of got him ready to get into that state to learn. So it's like that body relaxed, mind alert state that we need to really learn. And it was very effective and he liked it.
Love that. So for people who don't really know about, the listening program, how would you go about, number one, knowing, wait, is this actually for us? But then number two, like, how do I even do that?
Yeah. So, well, the listening program is a neuroscience-based music listening therapy. So the way that it works is your child or you, whoever is doing it, you're going to be listening to beautiful music that has something called neuroplasticity modifications. So what those actually do is they're brain training technologies, really. So you wear headphones, you're listening to 15 to 30 minutes a day. And so what we typically find was that within the first 4 weeks, we hear that the kids, the adults are much calmer, they are more present, they definitely seem to be more aware of what's going on around them and can adapt their behaviors more accordingly to what's going on. Then by about week 6 to 7, we hear about all sorts of different changes related to sensory processing, feeling more comfortable in different environments, feeling more connected to other people and to their own bodies. So there's a lot of different like independence skills that start to really take place during those periods of time. And then a really exciting part of the program is when we get into the speech and language training centers of the brain. So music and language are processed in very similar ways in your brain. And so it's a really important way to influence how we're perceiving speech. So especially for learning, right? How are we processing what's being said to us, as well as how are we expressing ourselves? So it's a really great way to improve our communication skills, social development, attention, learning. So those are all some of the benefits. And then finally, we see really exciting changes in creativity and higher level thinking skills and decision making. So what I would say is, like, if any of those benefits are what you're looking for, over time, the program does train all of those different areas.
So now describe to me, I mean, when I'm saying describe to me, like I'm sitting over, I'm sure you can see me nodding. Like those of you watching on YouTube see the same thing, because I think it is just such a fantastic way that we are exercising the brain with and making it so that our children are doing this, but it's not so invasive or something like that's going to be so really challenging during the day because goodness gracious, we do not need another challenge or argument. But so what exactly, when you say we're doing this for 15 minutes, like what exactly does that mean? What does that look like for a family?
Yeah. So as far as, what it looked like for us with Ethan, our middle son, is I would set up a table, he would color, puts on the headphones, and during that 15-minute listening session, there is a warm up, a training, and then a cool down phase basically to what we're listening to. So it's going to be either classical music, or we actually have a rhythm-based music listening therapy as well. So just depending on what is going to be the most beneficial program, right? So as we begin to listen, the music has all of these different elements in it to help train the auditory system and really improve our processing it as far as how we're taking in information. It's also helping to stimulate the vagus nerve so that we can feel really calm and connected and safe. So as we're moving through the 15 minutes, we're going to hear beautiful music. We're going to start hearing something called filtration, where we understand that different frequencies of sound have a different effect on our body. So for example, if we think about really high frequency instruments, so maybe a piccolo or a viola, those high frequencies give us a lot of energy. They help to increase our mood, our motivation, our thinking skills. They really help us to feel alert and activated. Whereas on the other hand, when we're using low frequency sounds, they help us to feel calm, connected, really just integrated. And so we use these different frequencies over the course of time with the listening program. So we give the brain an opportunity to really benefit from these different sounds and music and the instrumentation. So there's all of these different elements of these different treatments that we're bringing into you with the listening program. We also do things like spatial surround training, so that one of the really exciting benefits is a lot of people say that their kids get distracted by every little sound in the environment. So if they're trying to focus, something's going on in the background, they're immediately going to be pulled away from whatever they're focusing on, right? So that spatial surround training helps the brain to really learn how to stay focused, even in the presence of background noise. So we do see a lot of successful learners from these programs because they're able to really focus and take in what they're trying to learn and apply it.
So how does a parent, are they setting up sure, now I want my child to be calmer. Now I want my child to be, it's in the middle of the day, we're ready to be focused, whatever. Are they setting up the program day to day?
So there are 4 different programs, which is really nice. So each program is going to take between 5 to 10 months to complete. And every program moves through a sequence of color-coded frequency training. This way you can really know exactly what part of the program you're on and what kinds of changes you want to be looking out for. So there's a program called Spectrum. That one is the one that we use for young children. We use it for those who are really sensory sensitive, helps with handwriting skills, so a lot of the physical coordination skills. So our OTs absolutely love the Spectrum program.
Yes, we do.
So focus on those low frequencies. Yeah. We have another program called Achieve. This one is really a great one to help improve speech skills, social connectedness, as well as academic performance, because it really goes to work on those middle range frequencies that we need to be good learners and good friends, right? So it's a really important one for those social aspects as well. And keep in mind, there's a lot of crossover. So you're going to see those changes in every program, but we have 4 because we want to get it as right as we can to figure out, well, where does this person need the most this, right? And then we have a program called Level 1, which is actually I would say the most advanced program. So a lot of parents will use the Level 1 program. It's a great one for, those that are ready for higher level training for executive processing, while at the same time really helping to reduce stress. Those first 3 are all classical music. And then we also have a rhythm-based program that's very adaptable. So it can look a lot like Spectrum and very gentle, focusing on those sensory needs, or you can program it to be more like a Level 1, so it's more advanced. And so that's why, like with Sarah, she's a provider of listening program. So she knows how to work with all of them and really design these effective program plans that a parent would follow. So you get a listening log and you say, okay, well, today is Monday, so this is what I need my child to listen to. So it's really straightforward, and you move through all those different levels of training with each of those programs.
So what about the kiddos? Because this happens all the time, and we've mentioned headphones quite a bit, right? So what about the kiddos that are sensitive and do not want this on their heads? Why? Why is it through headphones? And what do we do if that's a struggle?
Yeah, first of all, I wouldn't worry about it. If your child won't wear headphones, don't stress. Seriously, like just let them listen to it through the best quality speaker as you can. But the goal is to get them in headphones eventually. So we've worked with so many therapists for the past 25 years. So in that time, we have collected all sorts of tips and advice and just different ways that you can try it. So we've had some really good suggestions come through. I think ultimately when it comes to those headphones, they don't understand what they are. So introducing them, these are headphones, and let them see you wearing them. Let them see themselves in a mirror, maybe put them on a little doll or a teddy bear so that those headphones seem okay. Let them know like music going to be playing through them. And over time, with a little bit of extra exposure, some days you might count 2 minutes as success. The next day, get a full 15 minutes in. So you just take it day by day and just let the child be really relaxed and comfortable. That's how we're going to get the greatest results with this program. So just do your best, not to worry.
And don't stress. Gosh, we do not need any more stress. So what about the people that right now are like, wait, Sarah, you think I'm going to put some headphones on and then it's going to, change my kid's world? So can you share a little bit about some of the research, especially the research in regards to executive functioning and how it can help us with attention and task initiation and all of that?
Absolutely. So one of my favorite research studies was based out of Russia by a group of neurologists. And what they did is they really wanted to understand the impact of what can listening therapy provide for children who maybe have learning challenges and they're struggling to be able to focus and remember the information and actually apply what they're learning so that they can succeed in a school setting. So this research was really interesting because they did a lot of very groundbreaking work. So it was a double-blind placebo-controlled research study that was published in, I want to say it was the Canadian Research. We do have all of our research available, so you can just go into Advanced Brain, go to Science, and you can see all the research.
And I'll make sure that we link that in the show notes too, for sure.
That would be wonderful. The biggest finding that they found was that music has a really profound influence on the cerebellum. And for a lot of the kids that they were looking at, they may have had issues coordinating their bodies, or maybe there were reflexes that were not fully integrated. So what they found was that the listening program helped in a way to make those movements more automatic, which then freed up mental space and for higher level thinking skills and for learning. So there is a lot of research on the listening program over the last 25 years. But I would say my favorite thing is really looking at those individual case reports. One of them that comes to mind that I think is one of the most profound really was I was working closely with an educational therapist. And she kept telling me about all of these changes that her 12-year-old client on the autism spectrum was making. And what had happened was they were homeschooling her, but she just was not responding. So her parents decided to put her into just a public school, and they hired a tutor basically to support her. But other than that, she didn't have any other supports. And within 5 months, she went from throwing tantrums every day in the classroom, and she's 12, to being calm and happy in her classroom. She went from basically not being able to read or write. Most of her, like when she would try to write, it was just scribbles, to actually being able to write full sentences and even talk about what she was writing.
Yeah.
She learned that she loved math. And so she was excelling in her classroom. And then one of the neat things was there are some actually pictures on this case report where she got so comfortable within her body and her environment. You know, when you think about the different levels of performance, creativity comes about when you truly feel safe and when you feel connected, right? Well, she started sculpting and painting and just really was able to express herself creatively for the first time as well. And it's just surprising because that was just within a 5-month period.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Those are dramatic changes. So is that, you know how when you're is going to start a weight loss drug or something and they're like, these are not really expected changes or expected results. So is that big of a change? Is that something that would be common, or is that more of a like, wow, we really looked into this for this one client and it was spectacular, versus this is a general brain development. And so we see a lot of results like this.
We do see a lot of results like this. In fact, we have a medical doctor and their practice, they've been using the listening program because, as they explained it, it's one of the most consistent programs that they use with their clients or their patients that produces similar results over time. The biggest thing, though, is that because it is really a neuroplasticity-based program, it won't work if you're not using it, right? So you do have to get into a consistent schedule, 5 days in a row, take 2 days off, and follow through with your provider so that you really understand what kinds of changes you should be looking for, and to see if any modifications might need to be made to the schedule. So the role as a provider in the integration and the development of the program plan, I think, is essential, working with a provider. But yeah, we do see very consistent results as we're moving through these programs if someone's listening consistently. And especially, we do have different kinds of headphones, right? So the headphones are important because we need that direct pathway from the music to the auditory system. We even involve the pinna because our pinnas, our outer ear, really is what's responsible for picking up the location of sound and things like that. And with everything we're doing, the listening program, we want as much of that direct pathway as we can so that the brain does have an opportunity to experience all of those new neuroations that make this music therapeutic.
So you use the term neuroplasticity. Can you define that term for those who may not be familiar with what that would mean?
Yeah, absolutely. So when we think about, what is neuroplasticity, we're creating new connections in the brain. And so with the right frequency, intensity, and duration, so how much, how often, and for how long, we're literally convincing the brain that we're looking for change, for permanent, lasting change. So with these programs, we do see that those new connections are made. So for example, we have a number of kids who were either pre-verbal, nonverbal, or just had very limited language, develop speech skills through using this program and working with their speech and language pathologist. We've had kids who, well, my son, actually, I remember I was working with him for years and years and years trying to get him to ride a bike. And we put him on the listening program, and within about a couple of weeks, he started riding his bike. And so those are some examples of like providing the right kind of stimulation and the right kind of environment produces the right kinds of change. And that's true for anything with your occupational therapy sessions, with a diet or a fitness program. We need it to be consistent over time in order to see those changes produced.
Love it. So you mentioned, the frequency, the intensity, and the duration. Like these are things that I think about on the regular with any type of exercise or any type of anything. Is there a connection or a way, like how do you affect the frequency and the intensity within the listening program? Like how does that actually work?
Yeah, there's a few things. So when we think about the different programs, so we have Spectrum on one hand, which is really our most gentle program. So when this was developed, we went through every 15-minute module, and then the next one was built on that. So there's just like this very incremental change over time so that we're never providing kind of like too much information for that person. The other thing that we're doing too is, when we're thinking about that kind of the warm up, training, and cool down phase, we're getting the brain into a ready state to be able to receive the kind of stimulation that we're providing. So we want them to be in a very relaxed and comfortable state where it sounds like normal music. And then we slowly bring in the different elements that provide that frequency, intensity, and duration. So that's why we want you to do 15 or 30 minutes, depending on what's appropriate. That's why we want you to do it 5 days a week for at least 5 to 10 months. That's where we're going to see the lasting results. A program that's only a couple of weeks, you might see change during that time, but then it's probably going to fall off pretty quickly. So in our research, we know that in order to make those changes last, you do need to do it for enough time.
Right. This is so fascinating. So if there is, before we wrap up here, and I'm going to put you on the spot, right? Because why not? So you've already kind of shared your favorite anecdote or your favorite story of a person who's really dramatic, had some dramatic change. But what has been the most, you've been here now for 25 years. So if there was one piece of advice or one piece of like, hey, parents, this is why I think the listening program is so spectacular, like what would you say?
For me, I genuinely think that music is just part of who we are, and it's a
Me too.
natural way to really feel our best. I mean, when we think about, music goes all the way back as far as we know. It was used to celebrate, it was used to mourn. And so we automatically recognize that music has a powerful presence in our lives. And so for me, we're doing 7 very specific things with the listening program that I think leads to our optimal performance, really helping us to reach our potential. So we are definitely hitting that executive functioning piece. We're helping our auditory processing. But before that, we really need somebody to feel safe and calm and connected. And I can't think of anything that does that more than music.
Yeah. Well, I love that because we frequently here in the homeschool community, we talk about, connection over curriculum and how that underlying safety is such an important piece of how we're going to help to build our relationship with our children. And clearly the relationship is more important than, do you know 2 + 2? But those things build on each other, right? Our relationships change over time, and especially as we're learning and growing and all of that together. So to be able to do that through music or to use music to build the relationship, I think that's so amazing and helpful. So, okay, how then would a family that's homeschooling, right? How do they get in touch or get started with the listening program?
Well, the easiest way, I love the idea of like, let's just see how your kiddo and responds to it. How does it fit into your life? Because like, again, we said, we need to do it consistently. So we offer a 7-day trial. I like the trial because you get to hear the music, hear the very entry level aspects of the neuroacoustic modifications. You'll get one 15-minute session for 7 days in a row. So you get to pick whichever 5 days you want to do it. And it really does allow you to evaluate if this is something that you can bring into your life, because it doesn't work for everybody at phases. So think about, do you have something really big coming into your life? Is there already so many things that you're trying to do? So really just evaluate, does it make sense to add 15 minutes? But I think it does because it makes everything else easier, right?
Right.
You can do the 7-day trial on the best website. I'm sure you'll link, but just go to try.advancedbrain.com. You can get set up right there. If you don't have headphones, just go ahead and use the best quality speakers that you have. You're definitely going to see better results with headphones. We do offer 2 ways that you can purchase the listening program. So you can either set up a subscription. It's only $34.95 per month for your full listening therapy, right? You get access to each day. You can track your mood, progress. There are assessments built in, or you can purchase a system. So a lot of families actually want everyone in the family to use the listening program So we send you an iPad, everything is preloaded on it. It comes with the therapeutic headphones, and that's the other way that you can get access to the programs. So of course, I'm sure you might contact Sarah or just reach out to us, and we have a very friendly expert that can basically walk you through all of the different options.
So you can email me at sarah@homeschoolot.com, and I can make sure that you're getting set up in that way as well. So thank you so much for coming on and for explaining this program a little. I know there are so many families that have heard about music or heard the benefits of music, but to really be able to understand some of the brain science and understand the why and how this could logistically fit into the homeschool day is a huge help. So thank you so much for being here.
Yes, thank you too. I really enjoyed it, and we look forward to connecting again, and hopefully we'll get to see some of your families experiencing the listening program as well.